Hello and welcome to another episode of the Losers Win Again Fantasy Football Channel, and we're back finally talking about some Draftkings fantasy football. This video here is on how to win at NFL Draftkings cash games for the NFL. I know a lot of you guys that are watching these videos have played cash games before, but this is for the newbies, and this is also for people that just want to sharpen that edge again on what exactly you're looking for to do cash games. It's been about 6 months since we've been playing fantasy football, unless you dived into the USFL streets, which I did for a couple weeks. It was interesting, but it wasn't NFL. And I'm so ready to get this video started. I'm so ready for the football season. I'm so excited that you joined me. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like, that subscribe, and that notification bell if you want to see more content just like this for NFL Draftkings. So yeah, let's go ahead and get after it. How to win cash games. Let's do it. So just to get a little idea of what we're going to be talking about here are the steps that I take when I'm looking at starting to create a cash game lineup. First step here is to understand the contest you're selecting. Second step is target a 2.5x salary. Third is quarterback flexibility. Fourth is game flow plus running backs. Fifth, deeper wideout statistics. And the last, of course, being floors. So let's go ahead and talk about how we should be understanding the contest we're selecting. First step is understanding the contest you're selecting. Cash games are generally safe games where you have roughly a 50% chance at winning. These games include head-to-heads, 50-50s, and double-ups. These are the main games that you want to attack if you're trying to build a solid bankroll. It's how a lot of newbies and beginners get started. That's how I got started, was just by playing cash games, 50-50s, double-ups. These are basically ways where you can have a pretty good chance at winning. 50% chance is a lot better than playing in these larger field tournaments where you have less than 5% chance of winning first place. So this is definitely a good way to get started and understanding the rules of the game. So let's go ahead and move on to how we should be targeting 2.5x salary. Our goal is to get at least 140 Draftkings points with our cash game lineups. Most weeks that will be enough to reach the top 45% of the field and therefore into the money. To get there, each player on our roster needs to 2.5x his salary. For example, if Travis Kelce was a $7,000 tight end, he would need 17.5 Draftkings points to meet value in cash games, which means accurate projections are key to building a cash game lineup. 2.5x salary is just a pinpoint you want to get at. I have a projection sheet that I'm going to be coming out with that shows you value of players, and you basically want someone that's 2.5x their value or over. Some weeks you'll get guys that the teams that have huge injuries, and somebody that's $3,000 takes a starting role and his value goes up to 3x because he's getting a lot of work at a cheap price. So that's why projections are very important in daily fantasy football, and I suggest you get some kind of projection site on your side when you're building lineups. It's a huge help. Next, let's go to quarterback flexibility. With quarterback flexibility, there's a perception out there that we need to pay up for an elite quarterback in cash games all the time. I personally don't agree with that. Since quarterbacks have the ball in their hand on every play, we can more accurately project their outcomes. Most weeks I will consider a mid to mid-price quarterback from $6,300 to maybe $5,000 because we know he's going to have a ton of chances to make plays. A mid-price receiver may only see 2 targets, and a mid-price running back could end up way under his touch projection for a lot of reasons. In most cases, it's far easier for a quarterback to hit 12.5 points than a running back or a wideout to hit 7.5. So with that being said, it's real dependent on weeks. where there's value in other positions, but majority of the time, it's safe to just go with that mid to min price quarterback, especially if you can find one that's mobile. Mobile quarterbacks are a huge plus in playing daily fantasy football. Definitely something to consider. Here lately, it seems like a lot of the mid or to mid price quarterbacks are your traditional pocket passers, and the high priced ones are just the elite quarterbacks that have rushing upside like Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson. But you can find players at certain salary points that can make your lineup work. As a matter of fact, last year's week 1 was a perfect example. Cam Newton got cut. Mac Jones was named the starter. Mac Jones was only like $4,400 or $4,500 at quarterback, and that right there got me a bunch of studs in my lineup that helped me win over, I believe, like over 50% of my cash game lineups for week 1 last year. It's definitely just a strategy to think about. Even though Mac Jones wasn't mobile, he got us there at his price point. So that's something to think about when you're selecting quarterbacks. But let's go ahead and move on to game flow plus running backs. Generally speaking, running backs fare better when their team is ahead on the scoreboard. That's especially true for some backs and less true for others. What we don't want to happen is to find our cash game running back on the bench in the second half because his team is losing. That's why strict 2-down backs are risky in cash game plays. We have to be absolutely positive their respective teams are going to be winning to use them in this format, and simply being favored by 6 points in Vegas isn't enough. Ideally, our cash game running backs will be game flow independent. This means they are on the field and heavily involved in the offense, whether their team is ahead or behind. Of course, these are usually the most expensive runners. Fitting 2 or 3 of them in most weeks isn't possible, but striving to remain as game flow neutral as possible at running back is necessary. Simply put, this is something else that kind of depends on the week you're in. If you can find some good value at other positions, of course you'll be able to fit more expensive running backs, the ones that you can rely on more. There's also some weeks where you can find some great value at running back where you don't even need a big stud back. If you can get that value in, you can get big studs from other positions like wide receiver or quarterback or tight end. So the main thing here is to find running backs that are game flow neutral, that will be on the field a lot, and they will get a lot of attempts, targets. Those are huge when it comes to selecting a running back. So now let's go over what's important when you're looking for a wide receiver. One of the best advanced stats to look at for cash game wideouts is ADOT, a Pro Football Focus metric which stands for average depth of target. The most reliable receivers are the ones with a low or mid-range ADOT, as they're a direct correlation with catch rate. Of course, catches are gold because we get a full point per reception on Draftkings. Target count and ADOT and catch rate need to make sense when selecting your cash game wideouts. Look guys, targets, catches are huge when you're selecting wide receivers, and especially if you can get a great value. Like I've been saying this whole entire time, finding value is huge when you're looking for a great cash game lineup. You need to find the correct value, and when you can get a high target count, ADOT, and catch rate along with that value, it's going to help your lineup tremendously. So things I would look at is a site called NFL Savant. And when you're thinking about considering a receiver, let's say you want to draft a receiver from the Los Angeles Chargers. If you go to the site NFLsavant.com, you can select the team you're interested in, and they will show you the targets that that team is getting for that season, the season before. It'll give you target percentage, A-dot rate, catch rate, all kinds of stuff. Red zone targets, anything, you name it. So that is definitely something to look at when you're looking for receivers. In cash games, heck, I even use it in tournaments sometimes. I'll go to NFL Savant and I'll be like, okay, if I'm building a stack, let's look at these receivers real fast. But stacking is a whole different thing that we're going to talk about in future videos. But yeah, this is a very important stat that everyone needs to consider. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to floor plays. For floors, you need to use the guys that get the most touches, the most high percentage targets, and the quarterbacks most likely to 2.5x value. Sounds pretty simple. We worry most about the floor of our projections and then work towards the medians and ceilings. We don't care what anyone else is doing. Eating chalk is more than fine, in part because far too many people will try to get cute with their lineups. So we play the good players in our cash games and profit. It sounds simple, and I know it's hard for people to wrap their heads around, but there's a saying that I have that I use all the time in fantasy football, and it's keep it simple, stupid. KISS. It's really simple. You pick the good plays and they win, especially in cash games. Don't try to fight it. Don't try to get cute. You do that in your tournament lineups. You don't do that in cash games. So that's something I strongly refer to you as you're preparing and creating cash game lineups. Well, there you have it from the Losers Win Again Fantasy Football channel. I am your host, Jacob Brown, and I hope these steps will help you win some cash games this fantasy football season. The steps are: understand your contest selection, target 2.5x your salary, quarterback flexibility is a must, game flow plus running backs is a constant thing you need to keep an eye on, and deeper wideout statistics are just flat out the biggest part of selecting wide receivers, and look for players with high floors. Those are your steps for cash game lineups. I hope this can help you win some this fantasy football season. And if you like this content, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell, and follow me on all of my socials. And we will see you next time on the Losers Win Again Fantasy Football channel. Thanks for watching.